welcome to the drive-thru. I'm your host, Tony T, and for a good part of the hour, we're going to give you free picks here on our show. Got all our pick dog handicappers here in our ready to give out plays. It's a fast-moving show. Take a look at a full lineup of guests today, and a lot of action to talk about. We got NBA playoffs, NHL playoffs going on as we speak. A lot of baseball. We've got we're gonna have some soccer talk, some NASCAR talk, as well as Kentucky Derby. I'll have a pick for you later in the show. But let's go ahead and introduce our my co-host for the show today, and of course Dana Lane and Joe D'Amico. Dana, how you doing? As we said here, the lots going on in the sports world.
Yeah, it's interesting because you said earlier, I can't remember the last time we had NHL playoffs, NBA playoffs, college football. Well, the reason why is it's never happened in the history of the world. So you wouldn't be able to remember that. But things are good. Cowboys got healthy today, a little bit more with Randy Gregory. I'm excited to see their edge rushers this year, and watching hockey. And Tyler Seguin, of course, is still non-existent for the Dallas Stars.
All right, Joe, I know it's college football week. We're in week 0. I know a little later in the show you're going to break down some betting advice for us as a new college football season is upon us.
Absolutely. I'm very excited about this college campaign. Obviously, I'll touch on this later, but 2020 is not the normal year. I think we can all agree to that. And neither will be betting on college football this campaign. We'll be touching on that later. But I'm very excited. We've got 4 great games on the board as of right now. Saturday, got a Monday game, BYU Navy. It's a lot to talk about. We've got NFL starting a week from yesterday and a full slate next week. I'm excited. We've got a buffet of sports betting. Basketball, baseball, football, hockey, NASCAR, soccer. We've got some for everybody today, Tony.
Oh, we absolutely do. And we got a game tipping off here, bottom of the hour. It's game 3 between Milwaukee and Miami. Right now holding up Miami and underdog here. Milwaukee going to lay 5. I'm seeing 5.5 in some places total. 222.5. And, of course, Dana looking at Milwaukee trying to avoid that 0-3 hole.
Well, it's going to be interesting the first quarter, if not the first 2 quarters. Going to be interesting to see how Milwaukee comes back. We didn't get a chance to talk about it, but I was interested to see your feelings on the fouls at the end of the game. I guess if you got to call one, you got to call the other, but we'll see exactly how Milwaukee responds to that. There was no – the initial drive by Jimmy Butler was a foul that the Giannis probably would have been let go. I mean, in previous years, if this was, Detroit Pistons, New York Knicks basketball, or Chicago Bulls basketball back in the day, this would have never been called. But this is a brand new NBA, I guess, where we call everything.
Yeah, and especially in the end game, we're kind of used to letting the players play, and I kind of prefer that style. Joe, yourself should let the players play, especially in the end game here, because really, if you're going to make those calls, it's early in the game to try to avoid some rough stuff.
Absolutely, like Dana said, this isn't the Pistons Knicks of the 80s into the 90s. I mean, the game has changed, and especially this is a little strange season. Everybody's a little on edge. I do think it's very interesting that Miami was the only team from the Eastern Conference that won a season series with Milwaukee this season, 2-1. I believe they were at a disadvantage with 2 Western Conference teams, but they really took most of the season series against everybody else in the Eastern Conference. Miami came out 2 games down. I mean, this is a big thing tonight, and now you got a team. I mean, obviously it's not a home and away thing anyway, but Miami is playing in their backyard. I don't know if they're maybe more used to the weather or not, but I will tell you this, that this is a team that's won 2 games. They've taken 4 or 5, I believe, this season. If I could be wrong, I double-check that. But this is a team that is now getting 5 points up, 2 games to none.
Yes, they are. And, Miami's got the sharp shooters there. And, Milwaukee, they had issues at the free throw line, hitting threes. Really weren't, when you look at them, their offensive efficiency numbers, they were not to the level they were pre-pandemic. And that's kind of the issue I have there, whereas the Heat, they're a good 3-point shooting team. And I can only look here at the points, Dana, in this one. Any thoughts here looking at side or total?
Yeah, I mean, it's you got a Miami team that's 6-0 in the postseason. I don't know what the status is going to be officially of Iguodala tonight, but I mean, they're 6-0 in the postseason. They outscored the Milwaukee Bucks 51-21 from beyond the 3-point arc in Game 2. And we talked about this before the series. This is what Spoelstra likes to do. He likes to get his shooters out. He likes to get bombs away early on, get everybody into a rhythm, and that worked perfectly for the first 2 games. If Milwaukee has any chance to slow down Miami, they must win either shoot the ball better from 3 or play better perimeter defense, both of which they did not do well in Game 2.
Joe, what's the talk in Vegas about this series here? I know a lot of the wise guys out there were big on this Heat team, getting some really good money on them to win the title, win the East, and there's some bettors out there holding some pretty good tickets on the Heat.
Yeah, well, right before showtime, I double checked and I seen mostly fives around. There was more 5.5s earlier today. So obviously some money coming in on the Miami Heat. A lot of people that I'm hearing, my contacts here in Vegas, and even my friends in the sports books, spoke to 2 different sportsbook bosses today that said that, people just feel a team that's up 2-0 getting points, that there's an edge on Miami. And obviously, we talked about no fans in the stands and things like that, but it's hard. It's hard to give a team that's up 2-0 and won the season series with Milwaukee, who dominated every other team in the East, 5.5 points. That's why the 5.5 was brought right back down.
Absolutely, it brought it back down. All right, you guys are watching the drive-through. Of course, picks coming up. We've got a lot of our handicappers are ready to deliver some winning picks, and let's get the ball rolling. Let's bring in Joe Duffy. You'll find him over at Pick Dogs. And Joe, how you doing today? Are you getting much sleep now that we're getting into knee-deep in all these crossover sports this unique year in our lifetimes? Well, Joe, you might want to unmute. We need some sound issues there. We can see we get the mic. We've got Joe without sound here. Let's see here. We'll bring Joe. Joe tonight is going to look at the Rangers and Mariners game, and we got. Let's see if we can get him back here. We have sound on him until we just lost him sound. Let's see here. Yep, I've got your audio on, Joe. So we got to check it out. It might be over on your side. Let's go ahead and bring in the group back here. Maybe he might have found something. Well, Joe, try to work on that sound. We'll get back to you in just a second here because we have no sound coming out of you. All right, guys. We're talking about this Milwaukee game. Of course, the second game of the doubleheader from the NBA has a Houston and Laker game. This one sits about 6.5 with LA. Total sits at 226. And of course, Dana, LA coming off a pretty long layoff as they get Houston here with very little rest.
Yeah, I mean, the Lakers have played just one time in the last 11 days. And, of course, the Rockets have less than 48 hours to prepare for game one. So maybe this is a sit-out spot for both teams, for, any bettors, because, there's a lot of times, even in, hockey, I don't know, how it equates to the NBA. But I know in the NHL, a lot of times you'll take a team that just got through playing a tough 7-game series in game one of that next series because their intensity level is already there versus a team that was that has been laying low for a while, as the Lakers have. But this, to me, comes down to P.J. Tucker's ability to shut down LeBron James or at least keep him under control. If he can do that, that's going to give the Rockets a big edge. If not, the Lakers may take a Rocket team that might show some signs of fatigue and probably close them out in at least 6.
All right. Of course, Joe, thoughts in Vegas here about this series of Lakers and Rockets, small ball against the Lakers.
Yeah, well, just like you just said, Tony, I'm hearing a few different things. I'm hearing, some people saying Houston, a small-ish team that may have trouble, Anthony Davis and LeBron James. But I'm also hearing that, obviously the Lakers and LeBron are always going to get a bit of an inflated line because they're fan favorites. They're an LA team. They're a media city. But the LeBron team is always going to get a little bit of an inflated line because the general public likes to bet him. So I'm interested to see what happens over the next few hours with this line. It will dictate. I already put my play in. I know who I like. I have it at the Pick Dogs website. But I'll be honest, Dana mentioned a team that hadn't played 11 days could work against them. They might be rusty or they could be fresh. There's a team that comes off a tough series. Do they have the intensity or will they be a little fatigued? And as Dana said, a lot of people I do know may be sitting out or will be sitting out game one here to see how it plays out. I do like this game. I have it up on the Pick Dog website. But once again, a smallish Houston team and an overinflated line would tend to tell me some of the sharp guys are looking for this line to go up so they could go Houston. But we'll see.
All right, here on drive-through, we got more picks coming. Let's try and effort our way to get Joe back in here. Joe, let's see if we got your sound coming in.
Yeah, I switched to my internal microphone. Hopefully you can hear me now.
We can hear you now.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can. All right. Joe, we were just talking about all the sports overlapping. I guess you're not getting much sleep these days.
No, I'm definitely not. And by the way, Iguodala is playing tonight, although Olenek is out. I know you guys were talking about it earlier. No, I don't usually get all that much sleep. I suffer from insomnia. Got a weighted blanket a couple years ago, so my sleep's been a little bit better. But, hey, I'm going to make sure that the bookmakers don't get all that much sleep.
That's the key right there, Joe. All right, you're going to take a look here at a contest, the AL West action here, as we got Texas and Seattle going at it. And we're looking here with Seattle favored here with $1.22, and the total in this one is 8.5. It's Kikuchi against Cody.
Yeah, and I do like Seattle in this situation with Kikuchi. He's a guy who his numbers aren't necessarily that great, but he's been pretty dominant when it comes to strikeouts. He's got 27 Ks and only 25 innings pitched. So he's a guy, it's one of the oldest cliches around, but he definitely has some good stuff. That's why he's still pitching. Bad favorites off of a win have been a very good play over the years, a plus 153.73 units. And at least, even though Kikuchi doesn't have phenomenal numbers, he's in a pretty good situation where his numbers are better at home and they are at night. But as I said, when you do have bad teams and they got a little momentum going, historically, they've been a very good play, more than 150 units above 500. And I guess I should stress the way my database keeps score, that's based on 1 unit per bet and, of course, minus the juice. So that's a pretty darn good angle.
All right, here on the drive-through. Dana, you looked at this Ranger team and this starter here, Kyle Cody, the prospect who had high strikeout rates in the minors, but I know you look at minor league numbers a lot different than most.
Well, I look at minor league numbers if they come from the PCL a lot differently for sure, because you can never equate what they do in the PCL to Major League Baseball. It just doesn't mix. It's kind of like going from the KHL to the NHL. There's no way to know how one is going to equal the other. But as far as Kyle Cody is concerned, he's making his first start. Now, he has had 3 relief appearances, including one against Seattle. In fact, he struck out the side in the 8th inning in his outing against the Mariners. But again, we can't really take much from that in relation to this game. I'm going to stay away from it because, Cody's going to make his debut as a starter. He's filling in for Mike Minor. You never know how the nerves are going to be. And of course, Minor got traded to Oakland. So I'm going to stay away from this because I don't know what I'm going to get out of Cody, and Kikuchi can be up and down. So that's a no play for me.
Joe, I know you're looking at databases. How do you factor in some of these first-time starters into your handicapping, especially now that you're data-driven?
Well, it's one of those things where I definitely do what I like to call the more traditional handicapping. I call it organic handicapping. I will admit that for the most part, when guys are coming up, I lean towards them, not blindly, obviously, or else I wouldn't have been giving out Seattle as a free pick today. But usually the pitcher has an advantage when the team hasn't seen him, when players are seeing him for the first time. And then with the so-called intangibles, I know a guy from my score phone days, he's still in the business. He always likes to talk about intangibles. I think you can overplay that, but usually you're going to have a guy like Cody's going to have kind of like that adrenaline advantage. So if anything, I would lean slightly more towards the guy who is making his debut, his first start, but not enough here to talk me out of this. And again, it's not one of the premium plays that I have up at Pick Dogs, but I do like it enough to pass along here on this tremendous show.
Thank you very much. Joe Duffy joined us here on the drive-through. Joe, you talked about Pick Dogs. Top of the hour, we have a lot of action starting. What do you got going on over at Pick Dogs?
I do have both NBA games, and I have a Wise Guy play that is a night game. Hasn't gotten off yet. It starts at 8 o'clock, I do believe. So all of my plays, none of my plays have gone off yet. So just get it for tip-off of the first game, and you'll have a 3-0 two-sport sweep. And it looks like I'm going to like all 3 sides tomorrow in college football. So we have a very big weekend ahead of us.
Oh, beautiful. Joe Duffy over at Pig Dogs. Check him out. He'll have a big card, Saturday college football. That's what you're good at, Joe. I know you like that football. We're getting college football. And, of course, NFL, you'll have that database ready for next week?
Absolutely. Oh, yes. I love football season. And the one thing I think I mentioned last time I was on, if there was a blessing in disguise that came out of this whole disaster, gave me a lot more time to research and come up and uncover some systems and kind of tighten up some systems. So my database is entering this season as strong as ever.
Absolutely. All right, Joe, great having you on the show. As always, have a great weekend. We'll talk to you next week.
We shall. All right, gentlemen.
All right, that was Joe Duffy here on the drive-through. Joe, I know, you're talking about this college football season. It's pandemic betting, right? We've got to keep our eyes on it. It's nothing we've seen before here, especially with these college kids trying to find out who's in, who's out.
Absolutely. Any year it's tough, especially at the beginning of the season. We'll do a little quick betting 101 throughout the show on college football. But particularly during this pandemic, do your due diligence. We will talk about lines in a few minutes. In any season, do your homework, check your trends, check your streaks, especially check your injuries. That's in a normal season, guys. I think we would all agree there's nothing normal about 2020. The players are going to be tested for coronavirus every 3 days. Those who test positive will be out for at least 10 days. Here's a funny catch. Those who were in contact with those who test positive and test negative will be out for 14 days. So this is huge, guys. You've got to be on top of this. They're going to treat I hate to say it, but they're going to treat these college kids with extra kid gloves. They're not going to take any chances. This is our youth. We want to protect them at all means. This is pinnacle. But many players, particularly some of the very best in college football, have opted out of the season. A few of the biggest names just over the last few days. Make sure you know who they are and do they have capable backups. Familiarize yourself this time of year with coaches and teams that like to run up scores, and as importantly, teams that do not and coaches that do not. I also put a lot of stock into playing at home. That's going to change this year. Normally, you don't have to travel. Your facilities are usually superior. You know every nook and cranny of the field and every light angle. Moreover, fans in the stands. We all know when the home team is at the line, you can hear a pin drop. When the visiting team is at the line, the crowd noise can be deafening, all right? Some of these games will have no one in attendance. Some, you could check. We have been making news lately. Some are allowing 10,000, some allowing 15. Go at this, and this may change. So do your due diligence, check this all the time. Maybe this season, guys, a home advantage isn't worth what it normally is in a point value to the odds makers. So be aware of this. You're going to see some of these bigger teams in the next few weeks being very large favorites, some of these top 20s and whatnot. They might be getting a little overinflated. Be careful with this and be aware.
Absolutely. Here on the drive-thru, I'm Tony T. We're joined by Dana Lane and Joe D'Amico. More picks coming. Let's keep the picks coming. Dana's got a game here between the Marlins and Rays. 6:40 start time. Dana, we've got Lopez and Fleming with Tampa Bay favored in this one.
Yeah, I just wanted to tell Joe, I mean, it's an excellent point about, making sure you stay on top of things. I'm even going to wait a week because I want to give myself another week to get acclimated. I mean, it's a long football season. I've said it every day this week. This is a 365-day-a-year endeavor. So just because football is starting doesn't mean you got to jump right in. Know what you're doing before you get in because, that you don't want your bankroll gone before week 4. But on the baseball today, I mean, Tampa Bay and Miami, I'm looking at a nice plus price on the run line with Tampa Bay minus the 1.5. You're getting $1.58 in most spots, $1.60 in some others, but mostly around 55 to 58. The Rays are 20-5 since August 8th. They returned home after a 5-1 road trip that included a sweep of the Marlins. And the Rays' production is actually better on the road than it is at home, and it's not even close. Their run production on the road is over a full run a game better than it is on the at home at the Trop. And also for as far as batting average is concerned, they hit 40 points higher on the road. So I'm not afraid to give up that 1.5. And like I said earlier, a lot of games if you like the favorite, don't worry about laying the 1.5 because it's less than 5% that these games actually land on that one run. So instead of having to give up some juice, you get a nice juicy price and plus $1.58. The Rays are 19-8 against teams that are 500 or better. So I'm going to take Tampa Bay minus the 1.5.
All right, Dana Lane looking here at the run line. What's your thoughts here on the starter here, Josh Fleming for Tampa? Now, again, these young pitchers on the hill.
Yeah, well, again, not we haven't sat there and seen a lot of them, and this is one thing about baseball we've seen across the board. You're really going to have to pay attention to a lot of these young kids that you probably have not seen very much, at least in a major league uniform. But as far as Rays starters are concerned, they've allowed 2 runs or less in 11 straight games. Of course, Fleming's going to get his 3rd start. And one of those was a 5-inning plus effort against the Marlins. So he has had some success against the Marlins already this year, which goes into myself liking Tampa Bay even more.
All right, drive-through. That's Dana Lane. And, of course, Dana, top of the hour, lots of action starting. What do you have over at Pick Dogs tonight?
Well, I got to be honest with you, Tony. I'm sweating out the Avalanche today. I like this Avalanche game so much that it was the game that I put up on Pick Dog. I wanted to also give myself some time to make sure that I'm 100% ready for this weekend. So we put one game up, and then after this is over, it's back to studying.
Bearer of bad news. Dallas just put one in. 8:32 to go third. It's a 3-3 tie with Colorado and Dallas. That's just as
Thank
we
you
spoke.
so much. Thank you, Tony. I appreciate the update.
I gave you good nights. I gave you good news the other time with that giant Rocky game.
Yeah.
But just as you said, they put one right between the wickets. All right, here on our show, The Drive-Thru. And Dan, I'd like to get your thoughts here. A lot of people in Vegas a little nervous. You got a Game 7 tonight.
Yeah, I mean, listen, this is there's a lot to unpack in this game tonight. First of all, Mark Stone's got to show up. He has gone unnoticed in games 5 and 6. He's got one shot on goal, or I think even no shots on goal, 1 or 0 in games 5 and 6 in this series. Plus, on top of that, we're looking at this goaltending situation. I'm telling you, has been handled poorly by the Golden Knights, by George McPhee, by McCrimmon. They fired the goaltending coach a month or so ago. He didn't know he was fired, or they didn't tell the media. I mean, it's been a whole debacle, and now they bring Robin Lehner in. They wanted to hand it off to Robin Lehner. They wanted him to run with it and potentially send Mark back to Pittsburgh. His agent is throwing out tweets with swords between the blades of Fleury. And I don't know how that relationship can be a strong one at this point. And really, none of this ever had to happen. They have to go back to Fleury tonight. There's absolutely no doubt about it. If they don't go back to Fleury tonight, Pete DeBoer will be second guessed forever. If they lose with Fleury, I think most people will say that's fine. You lost with your best.
Joe, I know that's the talk in Vegas. The bookmakers are, of course, is a big pull for Vegas because they do so much for the handle out there.
Absolutely. I agree with Dana 100% about Fleury and starting him tonight. But I will tell you, everybody in Vegas is a Vegas Golden Knights fan, and you can see a lot of money move there in their direction. Traditionally, and I'm always going to root for my hometown. Traditionally, this team does not win in Game 7s. We've seen that the last couple of years. They have trouble when they're good the whole regular season. They're good going through the playoffs, but in the big games, the final Game 7s, I hope I'm wrong because I always want to see my hometown come through. But it's going to be a tough game tonight. It really is.
All right, this is Drive-Thru joined by Dana Lane and Joe D'Amico. Lots of picks coming. We'll continue with the picks, and it's Joe D'Amico stepping up here with a Saturday college football. It's SMU versus Texas State, and we'll get you some numbers here on that one as Sonny Dykes, an offensive-minded head coach, sends his Mustangs to the field. And, of course, you're going to see in this one the SMU Mustangs. I think at last check, they were at least a 23-point favorite when I looked at it earlier.
I see 22.5.
22.5.
I see 22.5. There are some 23s around. So I've seen a 22.5. It being that it is still out there, I'll take the handicapper's edge because I'm going to play the favorite here. I want to tell everybody, how about 4-0 the last 4 shows right here on Pick Dogs? My free releases, the last 4 shows, consecutive, all winners. Go to Pick Dogs, guys. My free plays are going. We'll talk about what I got going off tonight. But I want to tell everybody about college football Saturday, SMU, Texas State. This line officially opened at 17, jumped right up to 22.5. As Tony mentioned, there are some 23s around, but there are 22.5s around. I'm never going to lie about a line. I'm always going to give you what is out there. Sports fans, SMU comes off a 10-win season in which they started off 8-0 straight up, 6-2 against the number. It took a very good Memphis team to put up 54 to their 48 to hand them their first loss a season ago, guys. They love to run up scores. They are infamous for covering big numbers in August, September, and October. Now, they did lose their 2 top ball carriers in the offseason, but reports are that they won't miss a beat with their new backfield personnel. I'm hearing they got a couple of guys that can run the ball just as efficiently as last year's starters. This is an offense, folks, that accounted for over 43 points per game a season ago, and they see the return of who? Their gunslinging quarterback, Shane Bichelle. Love this kid. He threw over 3,929 yards, just under 4,000 yards, 34 TDs against just 10 INTs. Listeners, he has an arsenal at his disposal. His 6 top receivers all returning. This is bad news, guys, for a Texas State secondary that ranked 106 versus the pass last year with an overall defensive unit that has only 4 starters returning. Friends, the Mustang will own the time of possession. They will keep the Bobcats defense on the field. They will win this game by 4 touchdowns or more. Lay the 22.5. If there's a 23, I still don't mind it. If this starts to go up before game time, Be careful around that 24, just to be careful. It's a hot number. We'll talk about that in a minute. But at 22.5 to 23, I don't have a problem laying some wood in this one. It'll get you the money, folks.
All right, Joe D'Amico here coming in hard with the favorite with SMU. Of course, looking at Texas State, a 3-9 team last year, really struggled offensively. Poor line blocking. They couldn't protect their passer. They couldn't run the football. Only one returning starter back on their offensive line. So I think you've got some issues here with this Texas State team. And Sonny Dykes, I think he likes to stick it to teams. Mm-hmm. I'm only concerned when his teams play the upper echelon teams. That's when I worry about Sonny Dykes in this conference. So Dana, what's your thoughts here with SMU?
Well, there's a few things to go through here as well. I mean, Garrett Riley is going to be the new offensive coordinator, and I know that they are returning a lot of their top 10 offense from last season, which on paper looks like they should absolutely roll through Texas State. They have a week off after this game, but there was some reports out of camp that this really wasn't a normal camp for SMU. Even the word lax was thrown around a little bit, so I don't know how that again, this is going to be a week where I kind of watch a little bit, but I don't like to hear that you've had a lax camp. I don't know exactly what that means, but I've heard that word thrown around twice. And defensively, there's going to be some changes as well. They're going to go to 3 down linemen. That's going to allow them to have a little bit more, utilize their athletes on the defensive end. Which are able to not be down linemen, which is going to be a positive for their speed advantage on most nights, and certainly in this game against Texas State. So there's some things to unpack a little bit on this on the offensive end and on the defensive end. But they're certainly better than Texas State. I don't know if I would lay 23 with this, but I am interested to get some of those questions answered.
All right, here on the drive-through, I'm Tony T. Joined by Dana Lane. Joe D'Amico, more picks coming. Taking it at the top of the hour. A lot of our pick dogs will come in with some plays for today and some college football for tomorrow. Joe, we talked about this line and how important it is to shop for the number. How do you shop for the best number?
Well, obviously, betting football guys to me, and really to most of the sharp guys, is always about the number and the value it offers you. Remember, the difference between winning and losing is just a half a point. So shop a number around, particularly around those hot numbers, the 1s, the 3s, the 6s, the 7s, the 10s, etc. This is where discipline and savvy comes into play. Take into consideration the opening numbers move drastically. Know your fan favorites and your TV games. I'm going to tell you why. A lot of people we went several months without any sports betting at all, and a lot of people that are football hounds and football fanatics are looking to bet college football. We see lines move. The general public loves the bigger schools, the bigger names. They love betting TV games they can watch. So if you can anticipate where the line will move, you can be on top more than you're on the bottom here. You can make some money and not lose it so much. I'm just very excited about the season, Tony.
Yeah, and Joe, you speak with a lot of experience, some of your background in Vegas. You know what's going on behind the counter. You know the trends. You know what the winners are doing. You know what the losers are doing. You have that experience in Vegas.
Yeah, well, I started, when I was 10 years old in the schoolyard with football sheets. I worked for some of the biggest bookmakers in the country in New York. I mean, statute of limitations is over, I can say it. When I moved out to Vegas over 30 years ago, I worked as a sportsbook manager running some sports books. And then I worked for I made lines for the line makers. Back in the day, there was 1 or 2 line makers that made the original line. It went out, and everybody then put their lines out. And then I did work for some of the best handicappers in the business, learn from them, and I said, hey, I got to do this myself because I'm just as good or even better. The last 16, 17 years that I've documented, come on, man. I've got more number 1 finishes than the Celtics have championships. I've got more top 10 finishes than the Yankees have a World Series ring. This isn't what I do. This is who I am. I live it. I taste it. I smell it. I sleep it. I drink it, and I love it. And that's that, Tony.
All right, Joe. So what do you got going on at Pig Dogs tonight? We got a lot of action starting at top of the hour, and of course it's college football weekend. What can we find at Pig Dogs?
Well, Tony, I'm really happy. I'm getting a lot more and more followers over at Pick Dogs. Anybody that followed my baseball last night went 2-1 on Pick Dogs. Tonight, I settle for nothing less than perfection. I have 2 baseball remaining on the board, my MLB cash money and my MLB double plays, each for just 35 buckaroonies. I also have both NBA winners, the Rockets-Lakers game 1 and the Bucks-Heat game 3 matchups each for 25. But sports fans, once again, as a multi-time college and pro handicapping champion, this will be my most successful and profitable campaign ever. So go over to Pick Dog's website, lock yourself in with either one of my college football, my pro football, or my combo seasonal discounted packages. Even if you want to start a little smaller or a little slower, get a monthly package. No matter what, I promise you this. You follow me this football season, and you're going to need to find new places to hide your money from your wife and your girlfriend, or your boyfriend and your husband, whichever one. We don't discriminate. Follow me, guys. We're going to make money this year.
All right, check out Joe D'Amico over at Pick Dogs. Pick out a package, even the football package is up there at Pick Dogs. Let's get an update on this Avalanche Stars game. Avalanche goes up 4-3, and guess what? 20 seconds later, Dallas ties it up at 4-4. Just unbelievable, Dana.
I'm well aware, Tony. I'm peeking. I'm trying to watch a little bit. I mean, this is. I thought once Colorado went up, I thought they were going to squeeze them, but it's interesting, and you have to really give Colorado, the whole franchise, a lot of credit, because a few years ago when Patrick Waugh walked out on them, I mean, they were dead to rights at that point. I mean, Jared Bednar came in and had a horrific year, and since that point, they got rid of Matt Duchene finally. After that, man, this has been nothing but straight up, almost to the top of the NHL. I expect them to win this game, but it is also interesting, too, that Rick Bowness the other day called out his top players, and I think tonight we see his top players playing well, even though Tyler Seguin is still non-existent.
Under 3 minutes, 4-4 tie. We'll see if this one heads to overtime. But these skaters have a lot of energy on the ice, a lot of fast movement, a lot of open ice as well to move through here. So defense crumbling a little bit.
Wait till overtime.
Late in this game. All right, here on the drive-through, a lot of picks coming up. And let's keep the ball rolling as we got another Pick Dog ready to join us here. And we're going to go and bring him in. El Ninos join us here. El, how you doing this exciting afternoon, evening here of hockey, NBA coming up, starting here at the bottom of the hour?
Yeah, a lot of great games on today. How are you doing?
I can't complain. Things are going very, very well. Of course, what's your thoughts? I know you're a Dodger fan. What's your thoughts of the Dodger performances the last couple of days?
Well, it's hard to complain as a Dodger fan. I mean, it's been a while since we had a good team. I know we had a good season last year, but slightly better team this year, so I expect them to go a bit deeper in the playoffs, especially without the Astros knowing what they're throwing at them.
Absolutely. All right, you're going to be looking here at this one between the D-backs and the Giants. This is a team I like to bet on. The Giants, one I'd like to go against this year are the Diamondbacks. We have Clark and Anderson in this one with looks like San Francisco going to lay about $1.30, $1.35. Total sits anywhere between 8.5. Actually, it's up to 9 because it's juiced heavily at 8.5. So we're going to see the total's 9 here between the D-backs and the Giants.
Yeah, it's really hard to back these Diamondbacks right now. Just 1-9 in their last 10 on a 5-game losing streak right now. The Giants, to me, they've been one of the bigger surprises this year. And although Anderson, he struggled in his last outing against the Giants, giving up 7 runs, he did shut them out through 9 innings. No earned runs, 1 run there on the outing before that. So I think Anderson bounces back here, and Clark's been great this year, but he's never really pitched this well in his career or in the minors, really. So I expect him to kind of give something up tonight. And as cold as the Giants, as cold as the Diamondbacks have been this year. Right now, I don't see how, no matter how good he is, I can't back the Diamondbacks right here. I'm taking the Giants, and if we don't like laying -130, I wouldn't be opposed to putting a little something on the run line too, but my play is going to be on the Giants on the money line.
Yeah, Clark, you look at him, his kind of major issues been walks, 12.5% walk rate. D-backs lost 15 of 20 on the road. They struggled hitting lefties, and they lost 11 of 12 overall. And they've scored 2 runs or fewer in 4 of their past 5 games. So could bring Dana. And Dana, this Giants team, look at their past 7 games, they're hitting the baseball over 305.
Yeah, and now they're playing a Arizona Diamondbacks team that they've absolutely had their way with this year. And even though they've won 5 out of the 6 meetings, but it's a manner in which they have. And if you think the Arizona Diamondbacks with Starling Marte was having a problem hitting the ball, imagine what they are without him. And in those 6 games, they were hitting just 164 against the Giants. Clark has a little bit of experience against the Giants. In fact, he has faced the Giants more than any other team in his short history. He is only made 3rd starter of the season. It's a no play for me, but those are interesting numbers for a Giants team that has absolutely dominated Arizona this year.
All right, here on the drive-thru, I'm Tony T, joined by Dana, Joe D'Amico, and El Ninos. El, big night in sports tonight and this weekend. What do you have going on over at Pig Dogs?
Yeah, one last thing real quick on that game was the Diamondbacks are also just 5-15 on the road, so this is not a good spot for them right here, no matter how good that pitcher is. But yeah, my 7-pack just went off with the first NBA game, but I still got a 5-pack with the next NBA game and 4 other MLB games. So if you want to check that out, go ahead.
All right,
got some good plays there.
So are you looking for some college football action this weekend? You're going to be in play tomorrow.
I'm gonna look at them as soon as I'm done looking at all these pro sports.
I gotcha. All right, yeah, a lot
of action going on right now.
A lot of action, a lot of games in action. At 20 seconds remaining in this tie, 4-4, Colorado and Dallas. So we'll see if this one hits the overtime and Dana can sweat a little longer in that game. All right, Al, as always, great to have you on the show. Have a great weekend, and we'll talk to you next week.
All right, thanks again for having me.
All right, back here on Drive-Thru, joined by Dana and Joe D'Amico. Joe, we're talking college football betting tips, and of course, patience versus aggression. Pick your spot. This is kind of a unique year here with the pandemic. A lot of these games have been put together late. So your thoughts here on this, on your approach to betting here at college football this year?
Well, Tony, Dana, guys, sports fans, there are times you must move quickly, be aggressive. There are times you must sit tight and be patient. This is very difficult. This is difficult for most people, even experienced sports bettors. Take into consideration of the numbers. The opening numbers move drastically. So if there's a number you like, if you did your homework, if it offers you value, you can play it with confidence. If your line isn't exactly coming around to where it benefits you, you can always buy a point here or there. But I want you to understand something about buying points. Be selective when doing this. Over the course of a season, if you buy a couple of points here and there and you're not on the right side of those, if you lose those games, this can become very costly. So be very selective. And if your line never moves to your advantage, guys, there's no shame in staying away from a game. Remember, it's not about the action. It's about making money. I'm going to say it again. It's not about the action. It's about making money. This is a marathon. It's not a sprint. If you're having a good morning, folks, don't double up in the afternoon. If you're having a bad morning, once again, don't chase and double up in the afternoon. Money management is more important than wins and losses. I'm going to repeat that. Money management is more important than wins and losses, guys. Be diligent, but be disciplined also. If you can follow these guidelines and a pro capper like myself here on Pick Dogs, I promise you it will be a profitable and enjoyable season. But just stay disciplined and be patient. Rome wasn't built in a day. You got a whole season. And if you don't like something today, odds are you'll like something tomorrow, the next day. Relax, be disciplined, be selective, be diligent. You're going to have a good time this season.
Joe, I know you spend a lot of time in Vegas behind the counter, and of course you're bringing those up, and I'm sure there's many people that come to mind when you say chasing. You've probably seen many of these guys, on Sunday nights, Saturday nights, chasing that Hawaii game. If they're following the money with Hawaii, they're actually winning sometimes.
Tony, I've seen people chase $20 or $30 into thousands. Hey, Dana, we live here in Vegas. Dana and I live in Vegas. You can't throw a dead cat without hitting a bar, and every bar has gaming. I personally, I never chase during sports when I bet sports. I've chased $20 into $3,000-$4,000 in the machine while I'm watching a game. So everybody chases. It's that we got to get that back, got to get that back attitude. I'll be honest with you. And I don't know anybody who's gone gambling the first time and hasn't made money. Whether you went to the racetrack, you bet $5 on a game, $100 on a game, or you went to a casino and you played blackjack. Every time you gamble the first time, you win. That's the gambling god messing with you. Don't fall into that trap. You don't win every single time. I've been doing this for 40 years. I have bad days. I have good days. I have a lot more good days than bad days. But you have to be smart. Don't chase your money. And I have, Tony. I've seen people start on a Monday night during the week, lose the game, go to the Thursday night game in college football, pro football, go to the Friday night game, go to Saturday. I've seen people chase all through the day and then go to Sunday, the Sunday late game, and then again back to the Monday night game. Step back, breathe. It's a long season. This is about money management. But, yes, I've seen a lot of people chase money, and I've seen them chase small amounts of money into tens of thousands. We see it every day. The casinos are built on that, my brother.
Absolutely. Joe speaks with experience behind the counter. I'm sure Dana's seen it in the sports books. It's something you don't really want to get into, chasing the plays. All right, here on Drive Through, more picks coming. We'll take it at the top of the hour, and with a lot of games to cover. And, of course, this Avalanche Stars game going to overtime. Dana, the Avalanche hit a post in the closing seconds.
Yeah, believe me, it's still ringing in the back of my head. So, yeah, we'll see exactly what happens in this. As Joe is talking about don't chase, I'm like, oh, man, I wonder if there's a baseball game. If this doesn't – I was all in on this Colorado game today, and I said, you know what, this is going to cash, and then I'm going to be able to spend the rest of the day getting prepped for the weekend. But you know what? Joe's got great advice, and that's exactly right, and I'm going to stay put no matter what happens. But there is that part of you that's like, man, I cannot take a losing day. I do not like to lose. I've only had 2 losing days in the last 2 or 3 weeks. And so that one day sticks with you a lot more than all the winning days.
Oh, no doubt about that. Here on the drive-through, joined by Dana and Joe D'Amico, we continue with more picks coming. Let's bring in one of the puck dogs. You'll hear him every Monday through Friday, 10:30 a.m. Eastern time on the morning show. Chris Ruffalo. Chris, how you doing? I know you have your eye on this incredible Game 7. It's been exciting.
I'll tell you, I'm going to have to start lending Dana my neck brace for how many times I'm whipping my head back and forth looking at the TV. But you know what? It's a fantastic game. You talking about it earlier. 2 goals, 10 seconds apart. These teams just can't get away from each other. I'm looking forward to watching overtime.
Yeah, overtime is going to be exciting to hear that post at the end. My goodness, it's just showing the highlights, and this has been a great game. All right, Chris, I know we're going to look here at baseball. Padres and Athletics are going to play tonight, and of course, the Padres, a team that has shown improvement. Oakland, a little hit and slump here as they come home and play, but I'm going to get a look here at the line in this one. And we're going to find here that the Oakland Athletics are favored here at about a minus 34 in this one. Total sits 8. Luzardo, the lefty, again, Zach Davies. Zach Davies, a longtime Brewer, now with the Padres, so he'll be a dog in this one.
Yeah, and the Padres coming into this one, the highest scoring team in the majors, 222 runs so far this year, but that offense came to a screeching halt on Thursday, being shut out by the Angels, and now they have to face Oakland, who's coming back from a COVID stoppage. And we've talked about it on the morning shows. These teams that come out of the COVID stoppage have been playing pretty well. But, I mean, the good news for San Diego, like you said, Zach Davies is going here, and I think he's been one of their best starters, flying under the radar, 5-2 record, 37 Ks to 6 walks. And, he lives and dies by his changeup, and luckily the opposing teams are hitting just 178 against his changeup this year. On the other hand, you got Luzardo going for the A's. He's only given up 3 runs or less in 6 of his 7 starts this year. He's pitched to the under in 5 of the 7 starts. I think we've got a pitcher's duel brewing at the Oakland Coliseum, so give me the under here.
All right, Chris Ruffalo here on the drive-thru looking at the under. Dana, looking at Zach Davies, I just remember in Milwaukee, just the management just didn't seem to have confidence. He used to get pulled a lot early in games, maybe go for less than 5 sometimes, but seems to get it going here in San Diego.
Yeah, and what's interesting about that is he has pitched 4 or more innings and allowed 3 or fewer earned runs in 13 consecutive starts, and that is the longest active streak in Major League Baseball, next to Zach Gallen. So, I mean, he's been very consistent, and for Oakland, it's going to be interesting the next couple of weeks because Daniel Mengden goes down with the positive corona test, and now they're going to have to play a bunch of double headers coming up, down 1 pitcher, and they've gone from having a comfortable lead in the division to only a 2-game lead over the Astros. So the next couple weeks for the Oakland A's are going to be pretty telling as far as their postseason.
Yeah, absolutely. Here on Drive Thru, joined by Chris Ruffalo. Chris, we have a lot of double headers going on, and I'm interested to see what your strategy is with these game 2s. I know there's been situations where some of these prospects, they sneak them into the game 2, and some teams have had success as dogs. Any strategies you have in playing these game 2s of these unique double headers this year?
I mean, personally, for me, I tend to throw a little bit more weight into starting pitching at that point. I know starting pitching has been the basis of a lot of my baseball picks that I've given out as a writer and even on this show or the morning show. But I think when you have a guy, I'll give you a perfect example, Trevor Bauer. This guy says he wants to go, every 4 days he wants to pitch. And he's also a guy that can give you 6, 7 strong innings. You don't have to worry about maybe having a bad bullpen like the Phillies do. If you can get a guy like Aaron Noel that can give you 6 innings and carry your team to the top of the 7th, you could have a complete game and not have to worry about your bullpen blowing up the game for you.
Absolutely. All right, Chris, we're getting close to the top of the hour, and you got some action going on at Pick Dogs. What you got coming up?
I have my free-for-all Friday go off at the bottom of the hour at 6:30, but I do have my Slingin' Saturday college football 3-pack that's going up at the top of the hour for our 3 college football games tomorrow, and I'm going to have some MLB plays and NBA plays up for you tomorrow as well.
All right, Chris, have a great weekend. As always, great to have you on your show. Have a great week, and we will talk to you next week. And we'll listen.
Thank you guys for having me.
And we'll listen to you for the morning show, right? 10:30 a.m. Eastern time. You'll have some coverage for the NHL, NBA, of course, the college football games that will be going on. And I know Mitch will have an opinion on that Kentucky Derby.
Well, absolutely.
All right. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you on the show tomorrow.
Thank you guys. Take care.
All right, back here on the drive-thru, we got more picks coming. I'm joined by Danny Lane and Joe D'Amico. I want to take a look at this college football game between Middle Tennessee State and Army. Army is a team with experience, and Jeff Modkin's excited about his quarterback and his offensive line. And, of course, the Blue Raiders, a real disappointing team, 4-8. Didn't make a bowl game. They really struggled with moving the chains and failed to win a road game last year. And, of course, this game will start. Well, actually, Eastern Kentucky, what we're talking about, it's an FCS team. But Middle Tennessee State is getting 3.5, total 55. Dana, how much did you look at some of these games for Saturday?
A little bit. I mean, I think this Middle Tennessee State game is probably the most intriguing game on the card. Asher O'Hara is probably he will be the best player on the field for either of these teams. The Middle Tennessee State quarterback, they had the entire off season. I mean, they had nothing else to do than to figure out a way to stop the Army option. This may be a money line play for me as far as just a personal play on Middle Tennessee State. But certainly, as you pointed out, Army was disappointing last year. It was their first losing season since 2010. And you know what you're going to get out of Army. I think Middle Tennessee State should be absolutely prepared to shut down Army. They have plenty of time to look at what they do.
Joe, the service academies are very popular for sharps out there because the sharp bettors, they like disciplined teams in the sports book. You hate seeing penalties. You hate seeing turnovers. I mean, we live and die by every play. And, of course, when you're betting on service academies, you're going to get disciplined football.
Absolutely. These teams, I mean, Navy did very, very well last year. They run the ball. Traditionally, these service teams run the ball a lot. This game, on a side note, will be played just in front of Army Corps only, just to let everybody know. I don't know if everybody knew that. The game wasn't added to the schedule until August 10th, so not a ton of time to get ready. I will tell you, though, Middle Tennessee State, the defense had a lot of trouble getting off the field last year. This something that I did look at, the 23 first downs a game last year in Army's offense. Obviously, they're going to run. They tend to gobble up game clock. It's something I'm not going to put this on the board, but something I want to watch. I want to see how both teams are because when they do play some other teams down the road, that I'm interested in those matchups. But Dana, let me ask you. I know you said you like Middle Tennessee State possibly for yourself personally. What about last year's stuff where they gave up a lot of first downs and the fact that Army does run the ball primarily?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, just to clarify, I mean, yeah, that game was officially put on the schedule a month ago, but this has been in the works for a little bit as well. I mean, it did scramble a little bit, but I think they have more than enough time to prepare for Army. But you're absolutely correct. But Middle Tennessee State, to me, offensively, is going to be able to outscore their defensive mistakes. And I think they will shut Army down. And listen, based upon last year, Joe, this is not the same Army. This was 2019 was certainly disappointing. They were in the top 25 in 2018. And, I can't compare. I can't take what they've done in 2018 and apply it to today because the last time I saw Army, they weren't a very good football team.
They're not. Let me ask you this, though. You mentioned that as personally, you may play the game on the money line. Right now is an ideal number. If you do like the dog, it's at a 3.5. It's an ideal line to take the dog. What about our followers out there that maybe are interested on the line on the game? Would you advise them then to take maybe put a little lean on the dog plus the 3.5 points?
Well, again, that's just my personal thing. It's not going to count against my record or anything. But just talking about probably the most intriguing game on the card. Certainly, if I had to pick the side, it would be Middle Tennessee State. But you are getting a little bit more plus money with them, and I just think they're a better team.
Good point. Thank you, Dana.
All right, to drive through here, I'm Tony T, joined by Dana Lane and Joe D'Amico. More picks coming. Let's bring in one of the pick dogs. You hear him as well in the morning at 10:30 a.m. Eastern Time with Mitch and the guys. It's Brian Bittler. Brian, how you doing? A lot of action today in all the sports. We need your volume up, sir. As we get that, I think you muted yourself. As we got Brian Bittler waiting for Brian here to get his sound going. I guess he's. But, well, we'll see. We get Brian back here. Brian, can we hear you, sir? Nope, no volume, sir. Some of them, I think they mute themselves before their segment. We got to get their sound back. All right, we'll go ahead and bring in Dana and Joe D'Amico back. No, we got the night game going on, Arkansas State and Memphis from college football, and this one. I know it looks to be a high-scoring game, at least if you look at the numbers here, because this total has been pushed all the way up to 74 from an opener of 68.5. Arky State and Memphis favored 18. Dana and Memphis bringing back their quarterback, and Arkansas State, they threw the ball for over 300 yards. On paper, it looks like there'll be some points up.
Well, completely honest with you, I mean, Tony, there's 20 baseball games today, and I had to pick and choose college football. But what I know of Arkansas State, I mean, that program is certainly on the rise. We saw Arkansas State play UNLV last year and almost lost a game. But, I mean, there certainly is a team that's been in bowl games on a consistent basis. So I wouldn't expect anything less than the program going forward unless, I see something differently. But honestly, I am not put a lot of time into this game.
Yeah, it's difficult. You got to pick and choose your spots here. I've kind of looked at it. I can understand the line move because, again, you got Memphis returning their offensive coordinator. It was their offensive lineman who was promoted, Ryan Silverfield, to the head coach of the Tigers, but the offensive coordinator is still in place. Brady White returns, a 4,000 yards passer from a season ago with 33 touchdowns. And of course, the Red Wolves have their two quarterbacks back. And this is an offense that put up 34 points a game. And Memphis, their defense really wore down, gave up a lot of yardage and points last year. So I can understand the move here to the over. All right, we're here on the drive-thru. Tony T, joined by Brian Bittler. Hopefully, let's see if we get Bittler back on. Bittler, can we hear you, sir? Well, I think we still have some issue with Brian's microphone.
I will say this, Tony, in relation to your point and Joe's point as well, especially if you like to bet overs or you like to bet favorites, especially double. It's like we were talking in the SMU game. If you like a double-digit favor, you got to bet it early in the week because that number is going to go up. Very rarely do you see a number go from like 12 to 9 unless there's a injury. But if everything's equal, usually that number goes up. So you bet it early in the week. If you like the dog in the situation, you wait to the very last minute or until you get that number that you're looking for.
Absolutely. Here I'm joined on the drive-thru here, joined by Dana Lane and Joe D'Amico. All right, let's bring in. I don't think Bittler is still trying to work on his connection, so we'll go on and bring in Jeff Jeter, our NASCAR expert. Jeff, how you doing this afternoon, evening?
Doing great. Just got a huge weekend coming up this weekend, and NASCAR's right there with it, so ready to go.
Yeah, ready to go. Great to have you on the show, making an appearance here on the drive-thru. And of course, when you're looking at, you're going to be watching the big races this weekend. You're going to hear a lot of talk about the playoffs, and you've got a race going on with a lot of cars. Can you kind of explain to the viewers out there as they're betting on their drivers how this playoff works?
Yeah, absolutely. We've got 10 races left on the Cup Series circuit this year, and we're going to have about 4 rounds of the playoffs. The final round will be in Phoenix this year for the final race, and there's only going to be 4 drivers there. But going back to focusing on Darlington this weekend, this first round of the playoffs is going to include Darlington here on Sunday, and then next weekend at Richmond, and then the following weekend wrapping up right here in Bristol. So, and then after that cutoff, there'll be 4 of the 16 cut out, so it'll go to the round of 12 and the round of 8, and then, like I said, will be finishing up there with the round of 4 in Phoenix in November.
All right, absolutely. And of course, looking at this Darlington race, I'm seeing Harvick here really favored with plus 275, Hamlin at 3-1. I know doing research here, Elliott 10-1 as one of the long shots. How do you see this race playing out?
And yeah, 500 miles at Darlington is 367 laps. It's a long race. A lot goes on in this race. It's all about, with Darlington being such an abrasive track on tires, these guys are really racing the track more than they're racing each other. That's what the kind of the famous saying comes out of these races at Darlington. So what we tend to see is experience finishing out on top, especially through the final stages of these 500-mile races at Darlington. And so, again, you're kind of going to see some of the familiar names up at the top, and Harvick, no doubt, is coming in. He's a very good race car driver on these abrasive tracks, and kind of like Atlanta and Darlington. He won the Darlington race for the first one here back in May. So he's coming in as a pretty heavy favorite along with Hamlin. So.
All right, Jeff Jeter here. Join us here on the drive-thru. Take a look at the NASCAR for this weekend. I know, Jeff, you've got Jeff Jeter. You're looking at the Xfinity head-to-head matchup here for the free pick for today on the show.
Yeah, we got the Xfinity race tomorrow, and it's at 12:30. It'll be a 200-mile event. It's actually kind of a shorter race for the Xfinity series, but as far as our show, one of the picks I like is like Ross Chastain at minus 120. Over Harrison Burton. Just kind of going back and looking at this matchup, on some steep ovals this year that kind of compared to Darlington, such tracks as like Bristol, Dover, are about the closest comps that we can get to Darlington. But I mean, I'm looking at Ross Chastain. I mean, he's finished ahead of Burton 5 times in the last 6 that I counted up just in the 2020 season. I mean, I love Ross Chastain this weekend. He should be in the mix here, maybe for the win. But obviously we're going to have to contend with one Denny Hamlin tomorrow in the Xfinity race. He's coming in as a pretty heavy favorite, and there's at least value tomorrow, I believe. But as far as the head-to-head matchup, I like Ross Chastain over Harrison Burton, minus 120.
All right, that's Jeff Jeter here on the drive-thru. Jeff, I know we see you over at Pick Dogs. I know you're going to have some football picks as well, but you've got yourself wired in for this big race here for Sunday in Darlington.
Yeah, I'll be ready for the Xfinity tomorrow, and on Sunday we're going to have a Truck Series race early afternoon, and then we'll have the big race to finish it out there for the grand finale in Darlington this weekend on Sunday evening. And I'll be on the 10:30 a.m. show here on with Mitch and all the guys tomorrow morning as well as Sunday to bring you some more picks.
All right, beautiful. And, of course, you can check Jeff Jeter up at Pig Dogs to pick up his package for this weekend's race, and he'll get you all set to go, get those bets in, and get them winners. All right, and Jeff will be listening for you at the 10:30 show tomorrow morning, a.m. Eastern Time with Mitch and the gang. Thank you for being with us, and we'll talk to you again next week.
Yeah, thank you all.
All right, Jeff Jeter here on the drive-thru as we're taking a look at a lot of the action for sports. A busy weekend of sports, and we'll want to ask Joe. Joe, in a unique year, it's Kentucky Derby weekend. Believe it or not, how is there some excitement in that race book?
They just said that they were going to be taking the action a few days ago. We read in the newspapers, and which is odd because it's one of the biggest betting days of the year. People flying from all over the country that don't actually go to the race, but because everybody bets the Kentucky Derby. There's been some people around town. My wife and I were on the strip again yesterday for a little bit. Then again this morning, and I did see quite a few people in 2 different race books putting their bets in, their bets in for all the races, not just the big one, but for all the races. I'm told there's some value on some of the other races. It's an exciting time, to be honest with you. I grew up betting horses. My grandfather and father were 2 of the most respected horse handicappers in the world. I grew up every year, every summer over at Saratoga I grew up 3 miles from Yonkers Raceway. I was at the track a couple nights a week. Be honest with you guys, sports fans, I live and breathe sports because I can't sing and dance. I make my money because I'm good at picking winners. But to me, there's no thrill in all sports betting or sports better than the 2 minutes of a horse race, especially that last 10, 15 lengths when you make it believe you're the jockey and you're whipping yourself wherever you are, whether it's your living room, whether it's in the sports book or at the racetrack. There's nothing more exciting. And I'll be honest with you, sports fans, you will get no better odds anywhere in the world than you can at the racetrack. And your aggravation is over in 2 minutes. I love it, Dana. Me and you got to go to the track. I think me and you, once the tracks open up on the West Coast, we take a trip. We take a guy's trip, take Tony and some of the boys, and we have some fun.
Absolutely. All right.
Yeah, Joe, the only thing I could think of, Joe, is when you said that is the guy that I used to see when I first got to Vegas 28 years ago that was like on top of the desk as he was watching the horse races with the form just whipping this imaginary horse that has never left my mind. But horse racing to me, Joe, is I never really didn't really get involved in it, but I know my dad did. He loved horse racing, and I remember my great father leaving me in the car as he went into the OTB in New York. So you're probably familiar with that as well.
Absolutely.
Windows down.
Absolutely. I'll be honest with you. One of my first jobs was the vice president of OTB was from my neighborhood. So we all, even when we were underage, had jobs when we were 14, 15, 16 at OTB. And I used to work at the one in Chinatown that used to do several $100,000 a day. It was it was crazy. But yes, I mean, horse racing, excitement, fun, great odds. 2 minutes, your stress is over. Tony, I love it. I love it. I love it. But I love nothing more than what's happening. The buffet of sports this weekend. Today, tomorrow, Sunday, Monday, we've got college football, we've got NBA, NHL, MLB, we've got NASCAR. We've got it all, Tony.
That's right. We can't forget another sport. It's called the world sport. It's soccer. Let's welcome, to make his debut here, Goran Kuchar. We're going to talk some soccer, some international soccer. Goran, welcome to the drive-thru. How you doing this afternoon, evening?
Hey, guys. I'm good. How are you?
Hey, can't complain. Things are going very, very well. Of course, you're making your debut here on our show. Why don't you give us a little background and how you got into the sport of soccer?
Well, I was following Sports Chat Plays for a long time, and then I saw that Mitch is looking for some riders, so I sent him an email, and that's how it started about a year and a half ago. And about a month ago, I started the premium picks, and here we are.
Yep. The premium picks, no doubt about that. And of course, since we're talking soccer, we know Messi's been in the news about his club Barcelona. Can you give us a little details about this drama?
Yeah, it's been a real soap opera there, right? He decided to leave the club because he has a clause in his contract that he can leave for free each season, at the end of each season, as long as he gives notice to the club at the end of the season by, I think it was May 31st or something like that. And he decided to leave now, but that clause is no more active. So the club asked for like 700 million euros from the buyers, right? And that's a lot of money. Nobody can afford that, right?
Yes.
And then at the end, he decided to stay. Since he can't leave for free, he decided to stay for another year. And we'll see what's going to happen in May.
Mm-hmm. No doubt about that. Yeah, a lot of news there with Messi. Now, of course, as we speak, the Stars have just won, and they're going to advance in their series against the Colorado Avalanche. Sorry about that, Dana, but didn't happen today. All right.
Oh, I could feel it. You
could feel it coming. All right, Gordon, I want to talk about this UEFA Nations League. Kind of explain to the viewers here about the competition. It's not the European Championship. This is a little different. I guess they've set up this competition. They wanted to basically monetize the friendlies, right? They basically take the friendlies, let's turn it into a competition now, and that's how we've got this UEFA Nations League.
Yeah, it's not the European Championship, but it affects, like, as further as you go, you have better chances to enter the European Championship the next year, right? And they took out all of those meaningless friendly games that were being played all over Europe, and they decided to give teams more competitiveness with this Nations League, and I guess they win more money, so that's a big factor.
Absolutely. That was the main factor behind this. It sounds better, right? The competition instead of a friendly. I mean, the friendly doesn't spark the interest that a competition will bring.
Exactly. Like, a lot of teams didn't bring like their strongest players to the friendly games, but now, since there's a lot of competition going on, they bring their best players, and because they have something to gain from these games, right? From this Nations League.
Absolutely, some competition, of course. All right, let's take a look. You're going to look at the game between England and Iceland. We saw England here, a big favorite on a three-way line against Iceland. Of course, the draw is in play when you bet the three-way.
Yeah, they're a huge favorite, and they're coming pretty much with full strength into this game, while Iceland is coming without a few of their, I would say, the best players, and they can be a good defensive team, but it's mostly against the weaker teams in Europe, right? They really can't handle those top teams from the world in Europe.
Yes, of course, England, of course, they get a lot of notoriety. We follow them out here. Of course, the U.S. played them in a World Cup a few years ago, and seems that's a lot. It seems that the information we get here about England is that the bigger the stage, they seem to always fall short when it comes down when they get deeper into tournaments.
It used to be like that before, but now since Gareth Southgate, he's their coach since 2016, I believe. And since then, they've had some very good results, starting with the World Cup back in 2018, where they reached the semifinals, then lost to Croatia in the overtime. And the latest they have was the Euro Cup qualifications, where they had 10 straight wins in their group with 40 scored goals and only 3 conceded goals. So they've been doing pretty good.
Mm-hmm. So recap your play here with the England side and Iceland. Which side you come in on?
Yeah, I'm gonna take England and over 2.5 goals in the game. That's minus 110. That's a pretty good price and I think we can see a lot of goals here because England has immense offensive firepower, and there aren't many teams in the world that can stop them. And Iceland is definitely not one of those teams.
Yeah, Iceland is not one of those teams. All right, Goran, when we take a look at pick dogs, I know we see your plays up a lot here from soccer. Why don't you let us know what you have going on this weekend over at the pick dog site?
I'm getting ready a few games for tomorrow. I think I'll have 4 games for tomorrow, and then probably 3 or 4 games for Sunday as well, because there's a soccer non-stop now. And soon we have the other leagues starting. We have Serie A starting, we have La Liga starting, and EPL is starting, I think, in 2 weeks. So there's going to be a lot of soccer happening.
What would you say is your strong suit? Obviously, EPL gets the best action, right?
Well, I like Bundesliga a lot, and Serie A gets pretty interesting because we had 6 or 7 teams between 10 points this season. In the season that just ended, and it was really intense and interesting. And we have Atalanta and Lazio stepping up and getting close to Juventus and Inter. So,
all right, just going Guchar here on the drive-through. Joe, in Vegas, not a talk here. I've heard about the soccer action really picking up with these international competitions. There's a lot more TV coverage of these events.
Absolutely. Not just in the casinos, but the local bars. You see local. Gordon, here in Vegas, we have, just like we have a bar for every football, basketball, baseball team, we have a lot of bars here in Southern Nevada that are around, that are built around soccer teams. And we have some English themed bars, some other bars around, but a lot of them carry this. And specific bars, guys go to, they flock, man. I tell you, soccer's got a lot of followers. Obviously, one of the biggest viewed sports in the world, and I'm listening to everything Goran has to say. And I wish you much success on the show and with Pick Dogs, Goran.
Thank you.
Dana, of course, in Vegas, I know there's a lot on our plates, but you probably get up for the World Cup like a lot of everyone else.
Well, I have to tell you this. I mean, in all honesty, I'm not the hugest soccer fan in the world, but anytime I got my country's name across the chest of a jersey, I'm interested in winning. That's for sure. So whether it's soccer or archery or whatever it is, I want to win. And not only do we want to win, I guess we want to win by a lot.
Absolutely. Yes. That's we're trying to get. We thought we had a shot there, but it did not look very good last World Cup. All right, Goran, great having you on your show. Good luck with your picks. We'll keep an eye on you on Pick Dogs, and of course, everybody keep an eye on Goran for your soccer picks because, like you said, there's soccer pretty much. There's a lot of action now. A lot of the leagues are back in play, and you can find them up there. Goran, great having you on the show. We'll talk to you next week.
Thanks, guys. Have a good one.
Tony, if I may, years ago when I first moved here to Vegas, I know Dana moved here I moved here about 31 years ago. I know Dana mentioned he's here about 28 years. You know, if you get 100 sports bettors in a sports book, all 100 would bet football. Maybe about, back then I'm saying, 70 or so would bet basketball, maybe 25 baseball, and even less hockey, maybe 10. And then there were dribs and drabs as far as major sporting events like NASCAR, soccer. But over the last 30 years, and particularly over the last maybe dozen years, we've seen these, I don't want to quote them, quote unquote, smaller sports, but sports like NASCAR and soccer and even WNBA. These sports are getting a lot of action here in Las Vegas. And it's funny because people flock here. You would think football, basketball, baseball, and yes, the Kentucky Derby. But I want you to know that a lot of these lesser known or lesser popular sports are getting a lot of action. NASCAR, soccer, WNBA, they get a ton of action here. I want you to go in any night of the week in a Vegas sportsbook and you will see whatever game is on. And they have these games and these events, NASCAR, soccer, or WNBA on. There's a lot of people betting on them, Dana. Don't you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. And you can walk through any book in the morning and see soccer on. Honestly, I don't know what took so long for the books to catch up. There was a ton of people in from Europe, and to me, it was a no-brainer. But you walk through in the morning, and there's soccer games going on, and that's a positive for the sports books.
Absolutely. Here on the drive-through, I got a pick for you guys. Here comes my play. We're going Kentucky Derby. I like Authentic. You got him at 9-1. Bob Baffert trains, and what can you say? Looking at his numbers here, 4 wins and a second. Of course, he winner of the Haskell, second in the San Diego Derby. Won the San Felipe. I'm going to go with the West Coast horse. You know, Tizzle Law 6-5. That's not my kind of horse. I'm going to take Authentic at 9-1. All right, guys. What's your plans this weekend, Dana?
Plans is to watch a lot of sports, which is usually the plan every week. I also have to make sure that we keep the family happy, so we'll be doing some stuff with them as well. But it's sports all the time. I mean, this is serious stuff, and if you want to make a living at it, you have to be in it 365, about 20 hours a day. All
right, Joe, what restaurants are you visiting this weekend?
Actually, tonight I'm making Fra Diavolo. I had a shipload of fresh seafood come in this morning from New York Fish Market. We're making Fra Diavolo tonight. I baked a couple of pies, but there is a few things. I may be going over to the Palm Restaurant over at Caesars over the weekend. I have some friends, some famous musicians from some famous rock bands coming in. They hit me up earlier today. They said we're going to be in over the weekend. But it's definitely, like Dana said, it's sports. I want to see what's going on with these college football games. I'm interested at the start of the season what will set the pace and see what some of these teams are doing, not just for themselves, but who they're going to be facing down the road. I might like something or see something that I don't like in a certain team that will benefit me down the road in the next few weeks or throughout the season, Tony.
All right, so Joe D'Amico, Dana Light, I'm Tony T. Thanks for joining us today for another edition of The Drive-Thru, back on Monday at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. Don't forget the morning show, 10:30 a.m. Eastern Time. Mitch and the crew will be breaking down the card for Saturday and, of course, Sunday on the Sunday show. All right, let's give everyone a goodbye. We got the whole camera's up, all the pick dogs. We'll say goodnight, and we'll see you guys tomorrow at 10:30 a.m. Eastern Time.